Welcome to another episode of Diplomatic License on City TV. My name is Apioko Seram Ashong Abe, and today we've come to South Africa, and I will be speaking to Her Excellency Ximgwana, who is the High Commissioner of South Africa to Ghana. So she has graciously invited us to her residence, and we'll be speaking to her shortly. Hello, Your Excellency. Let me wash.
Hello, and welcome to the South African High Commission.
Thank you.
Residence.
Very important to wash these times.
Yes, hygiene, very important.
Okay.
Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having us. Very grateful.
Social distance.
Yes. Very
Remember
important.
social distance.
Yes. So social distancing also very important.
Yes.
There we go. Okay.
Yes, this is our president.
So we're welcomed by the president himself.
President Matamela, Cyril Ramaphosa, and that is the Deputy President of South Africa, David Mabuza, and that is our Minister for International Relations and Cooperation, Minister Naledi Pandor.
Yes,
and then this is the President of Ghana,
His Excellency Nana Addo
Akufo-Addo. Yes. Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, together with me greeting him.
Yes.
For the January New Year greetings that we always do with the President every year. Yes.
This is beautiful.
And that is a portrait of Kwame Nkrumah.
Okay.
That was done by a Ghanaian. He did this one, and the portrait of Mandela, you will see it inside.
Okay.
And this is one of my visits to the Otumfuo.
Yes, Menchia
Palace. Yes. We had gone to give him a present, a ticket to Washington when we launched the Accra Washington route. Yes, in 2015. And this is a present I received from MTN, portrait of Nelson Mandela.
And of course, MTN is a South African company.
Yes, it is.
But we've done so much for our telecommunications industry here in Ghana.
Oh yes, they're doing very well. They are the #1 company.
Yes, they are.
In the Ghana Stock Exchange. Yes. This is our father, Dada Nelson Mandela. We call him Dada Kholihlahla Nelson Mandela. Kholihlahla means the one that causes trouble. This is, I love arts and culture, traditional wear. I also love your traditional wear here, your kente, your tie-and-dye, and your beautiful fabrics. And this is our jewelry, South African jewelry. We love beads, so everything we
And what you're wearing is beautiful.
This is also from South Africa.
Do they have special names, all the different pieces?
Well, some have, others don't, but there are those that are used for certain ceremonies, weddings, those that are used when men go to the mountain. And they usually wear blue beads. Yes. And these are the weaving, these baskets are made by South African women. And this also, it's men, they will make this and the women make the beads. And these are the women, our mothers, who are our heroines. They are the mothers that brought us up in the struggle for liberation. This is Mrs. Albertina Sisulu, the wife of Walter Sisulu, who spent 27 years in Robben Island in prison with Nelson Mandela. And she's the one that organized us, taught us about our history, our struggle, and made sure that we play our role also as young women.
And you're playing it beautifully.
And this is Mama Winnie Mandela. You can see she's wearing a similar necklace as mine. She loved traditional clothes. Even her clothes are similar. They are Xhosa traditional wear, and even the head scarf is a Xhosa traditional wear.
Okay.
Yes, and she passed on the 2nd of April, 2018.
2 years ago.
This is also an artist's impression of a street in Pretoria. You know, we have the jacaranda trees, which are very beautiful, springtime. So those are our jacaranda.
Okay. And what about this? I'm seeing this South African flag made out of people.
Yes.
And it's so beautiful.
Yes, this was a present from the Cape Coast.
Okay.
They said it represents 50 million South Africans. So we keep it there because it represents our flag and our people from South Africa.
Okay.
So we love it very much. We have another one in our office.
Okay. And then Her Excellency has been so kind as to make a South African dish for
Yes,
us.
because you know, you can see I love cooking.
Yes, there's a book here.
So when I have guests,
the Great South African Cookbook.
Yes,
The
and
Great South
that meal you are going to have is in that book. And when I have guests and friends from Ghana and from South Africa, I always cook that one. So I hope you will enjoy.
Yes, of course.
Well, I forgot to say
Yes,
I also love reading. I have a few books here.
Frans Fanon,
Steve
Biko, and of
Mandela.
course Nelson Mandela.
Yes, but some of my books I didn't bring. I have Kwame Nkrumah and a few others. Yeah.
Let's see. Let's get all of them. So Steve Biko here, Frans Fanon, Thomas Sankara, and Nelson Mandela. Hello and welcome to another exciting episode of Diplomatic License right here on City TV. My name is Apioko Seram Ashong Abe, and today we've gone to South Africa. So we're on the continent, staying at home, but we've moved all the way from the west to the south. And I am at the residence of Her Excellency Ximgwana, who is the High Commissioner of South Africa to Ghana, and I'm very, very pleased to be here. So when we come back, I'll introduce her and we get into the conversation. Once again, this is Diplomatic License on City TV. Welcome back. You're still watching Diplomatic License on City TV. And as I said earlier, we're right in the south of Africa. There's only one country in Africa that has the name of the part of the continent that it belongs to, and it's South Africa. And I'm at the residence of Her Excellency Ximgwana. She is, like I said earlier, the High Commissioner of South Africa to Ghana, and you're going to meet her right about now. Hello.
Hello, and hello to the viewers.
Yes. How are you doing?
I'm good, thank you.
Okay,
and
thank
how are you?
Oh, I'm very, very well.
We're all trying to stay safe.
Oh, yes. This
Stay at
pandemic.
home.
Yes,
Yes.
How are you keeping up?
Well, mostly I'm at home, working from home. I go to certain programs, special programs, but I still keep social distancing,
Yes.
good hygiene, washing of hands and sanitizing. And I hope everyone in Ghana and on the African continent is doing the same. We have to listen to our leaders.
Yes.
Because they are trying to protect us, save our lives.
Absolutely. So let's start from how you grew up. Which part of South Africa do you come from?
Well, I come from the Eastern Cape,
Okay.
which is the southern part, southeastern part of our country. In my view, it is the most beautiful. Perhaps the poorest, but it is part that has, we call it the land of the legends. because it is where some of the greatest leaders of my country come from. Nelson Mandela, Governor Mbeki, Walter Sisulu, Albertina Sisulu, Winnie Mandela, Chris Hani, just to mention a few. Thabo Mbeki, they were all born and grew up in the Eastern Cape.
Star-studded space.
Yes, and it is a province that believes in education, and because perhaps it is the poorest part of our country, there were no factories at that time where young people could find an easy job. Parents made sure that children went to school and studied so that they can contribute to the development of their country. And so for us, education is the future. There isn't anything you can do without education. It is a weapon to fight poverty and to open doors for everyone, especially girls, because as you know, in our continent, young girls didn't have an opportunity, especially in my day. Maybe you
Now it's a little better.
Yes, in our days, young girls were expected to go and get married, and parents thought maybe it's not a good investment to take a girl to school. So all that now has been stopped, because the majority of the people in our schools, I know here in Ghana, even in my country, are girls.
Yes.
And they're doing better.
Very, very well.
Even much better than the boys.
Very, very well.
Yes.
And what was it like? What were your parents like, you know, growing up? Yes, I'm sure they encouraged you to go to school and to study hard so that you could contribute your quota to your nation. But what were they like? What was it like having parents like yours?
Well, my parents were hardworking. They were dedicated Christians. And my mother was a teacher.
Okay.
And my father worked for the government. He was a senior officer in the Department of Agriculture. He loved agriculture. And at home, we always had a garden full of green vegetables. He would have some cows because he believed he must not buy food. He must produce it for himself and his family. And he also we had chicken. My mother had chicken. And we worked hard. My father made sure if you are on holiday and when you come back from school, you go and water the plants. You go and work in the garden. You can't just sleep because you are on holiday.
Now, there are three of you left. You're the eldest of the three?
I'm now the eldest since my sister passed. And the other two, as I said, they are in South Africa. And of course, we are very close as a family. Their children are like my children. They come here, they feel at home. They go to my house, they feel at home. So I also can go to their homes. I sleep there if I want. As I say, we even spend our holidays together.
Yes, it's wonderful. Now, growing up, so your father was a government officer, and I imagine that took you around the country a lot. What was the experience?
Well, we grew up in the Johannesburg area. But you know, in those days, we were not born in hospitals, we were born at home. So when my mother was supposed to have me, the baby, she had to go home to the Eastern Cape to go to her mother. And her mother was the midwife. So that is the kind of life we led. And we would, so we spent some time with our grandmother. They usually cook outside. They used to cook outside in a African pot, a black pot with 3 legs. And they would make a fire with firewood outside and cook very good African food, or even bake bread out there, and teach us, give us a bit of the dough to bake, even if it was not properly done. But that is the experience that we had. But basically, I went to my primary school. I went to a school in Johannesburg.
Okay.
And because we were traveling, soon after that, we left to a region that is KwaZulu-Natal today, where my father again was working for the government.
Okay.
And we went to that school now, a place called Umzimkhulu. And then from there, my father again was transferred. He went to Umtata, his area where he was born. And he was able to build a house there. And that is still our home until today. And that is where he started his agriculture and having a small herd of cattle and doing gardening or crop production. Small scale, of course, as well as chicken, poultry farming.
Okay.
For selling the excess, but also just for the family.
Okay, beautiful. But so let's talk about when you grew a little older. So there was primary school. At some point, the family settled back home in the Eastern Cape. And then what happened? How did you get to high school? Where did you go to school? What did you study?
Yes, as I said, I started my schooling in Johannesburg, and then I went to the Eastern Cape. After we were living in KwaZulu-Natal, in the Eastern Cape, we lived in Umtata. I went to a school called Ngangelizwe High School. Ngangelizwe,
okay.
Which means as big as the world.
Wow.
Ilizwe is the world. So Ngange means equal to the world.
Ngangelizwe.
Yes, it's the name of a chief in the area. So they named the school after the chief.
Okay.
So I did my junior secondary school there. For my senior secondary school, I went to St. John's College, also in Umtata. It was a famous school that had the best results for senior secondary in those days. It was a missionary school.
Okay.
From there, I went to university. I started at the University of KwaZulu-Natal. And then I went to the University of the Witwatersrand, which is in Johannesburg. I think it's one of the biggest universities in South Africa. We call it Wits University.
Wits.
So I did a BSc degree and majoring in biochemistry and genetics. I wanted to be a genetic engineer, but I was told that field is not open for blacks.
Wow.
In South Africa at that time.
Wow.
So I decided to go into teaching, and I chose to teach elderly people how to read and write. By that time, at university, we were busy fighting in the liberation struggle. I met Peter Mugaba, a well-known youth leader of the ANC, who subsequently became a minister under President Mandela. He was leading us as young people in South Africa at that time. We would be at school in the morning. In the afternoon, we would be attending another
school.
another school. And we didn't mind, even if we didn't get 90%, if we got 50%, just to pacify the parents, you move on to the next one. But because you are busy, decide.
Yeah.
And Peter Mugaba is saying liberation first.
And the school of life.
Yeah, that was the school of, very important. At the same time also, we had our leaders, Mama Sisulu and Mama Mandela, who were also looking after us as young girls and, training us and teaching us about our history way back, where we came from, how we ended
Mama
here.
Sisulu, that's Madam Alberta Sisulu, wife
Albertina Sisulu, yes.
wife of Walter Sisulu.
Walter Sisulu, yes, who spent also 27, 28 years in Robben Island with Nelson Mandela.
And Mama Mandela, Winnie Mandela.
Yes, Winnie Mandela
Yes.
also, they were both banned, unbanned. They were in jail, out of jail, but the little time they had, they did a lot of good work on us. They are gone now. We're continuing in their footsteps. I remember Mama Sisulu, when she was banned in her small house in Soweto, the police would stand at the gate and make sure nobody comes to see her. We would jump over the fence from the garden at the back and come and have a meeting in the kitchen in her house. And the police think there's nobody that ever came into this house. At the end, she gives us instructions and so on. We go back through the garden to the fence outside, and we go wherever, pass whatever message we have to take. So those were the leaders and the women that brought us up, and we are now standing on their shoulders. They opened the doors, and as a result of that, when President Mandela was freed and the leaders came back from prison, from exile, we continued the struggle together with them. Right. And when South Africa was free during our first elections in 1994, they said, we have fought side by side with the men. We are not going back into the kitchen. We have been to jail, we have been to exile, and we have suffered. And we kept the struggle alive. Therefore, the women of this country will be leading this country together with their brothers and fathers and so on. And so the women in the ANC fought for a 30% quota, which they got in 1997. We're able to get 30% in our parliament. And afterwards, once we have achieved the 30%, we said it's not enough. Actually, we constitute 52% of the population of South Africa. So we need 50% at least. And indeed, the ANC agreed to have a 50% quota in their constitution. And whenever there are elections, they make sure 50% of their candidates are women. Even in cabinet, 50% of their ministers are women. So right now, under President Ramaphosa, we have 50% women in cabinet. And under President Thabo Mbeki, we adopted the 50% in the ANC constitution. And he pushed to get women into parliament. We got 40-something, 42%, 43%. But we had other political parties, opposition parties, that were not taking women seriously.
And they would have to make up for the 50, right?
Yes, and therefore they did not make up. If they had, we would be having 50% women in parliament today. So that is the struggle that we still need to win. But we think a few of the parties now are following the policies of ensuring gender equality and women empowerment in our country.
Let's backtrack a little bit. Let's come back to senior high school at St. John's College, right? What were your favorite subjects?
Well, I always loved maths and science. But as I said, we were already politically aware at that time. We were reading a lot of books about Kwame Nkrumah, about Sankara, about Patrice Lumumba. Those were banned, but we found a way to get hold of them. And in that school, you know, we were talking about, we got a lot of those books and were able to read, and they actually empowered us to understand the politics of Africa and the liberation struggle, but also the politics of the world.
Of course.
What is happening and why We have wars in some of the countries, and as President Akufo-Addo says, why our resources are never beneficiated in our countries. People take them away, get them for next to nothing, and when they come back here, our petrol, our gold and diamonds, we cannot even afford them.
Right. So, math and science. Now, when you went to the university, yes, you were very politically aware. You had this consciousness, and you knew that you had to, you know, fight for the freedom. But what did it do to your confidence, one, as a black person, and two, as a woman, and somebody who had been raised to understand that education was your lock and key, education was your passport to a better life, and to a better world, really. And now you're being told, because you're black, you can't study biological science. What did that do to your confidence?
Well, in the first place, for me to go to the University of the Witwatersrand at that time, which was a white university, I had to write to now former President F.W. de Klerk. At that time, he was the Minister of Education in South Africa, the white government. And I had to give good reasons why I want to go to a white university. And my good reasons, of course, were that I went and looked for subjects that are not available in the black universities. So I went and chose biochemistry, genetics, and a few others that they did not offer in the black universities. So that was the reason I motivated to Minister de Klerk that I have to go to WITS. Is the only one that offers biochemistry, genetics, and so on. And of course, he had no option. He took me, and then I went there and studied there. But after I completed my junior degree, BSc, I wanted to be a genetic engineer. I was told that is not the course for black people in South Africa. So as a result, I then decided to go and teach the children, and not children really, I was teaching elderly people, workers who never had the opportunity to go to school, who were working in the kitchens in Johannesburg, who were working in the gardens in Johannesburg, and even in the rural areas. We used to go to the rural areas, working with churches, meeting in the church hall, meeting in the schools, teaching our people how to read and write. And that assisted them. They could write home. They could also then join other institutions and continue their education so that in future they were able to get a better job.
And working with these people, and these are the less fortunate people who didn't have the courage or even the opportunity or the skill to write to the Minister of Education and say, I want to go to this school because these are the courses that I want to study. Working with people like that, how did that influence your resolve to fight for independence? That actually exposed me even more to how our people were suffering, were abused under apartheid. You will remember at that time, my child could not go to a school, a better school in the area, because it was for whites only, a white school. My mother could not go to a particular church because it is a white church. There were black churches and white churches, black schools and white schools, black toilets in town. If you're in town, there's a toilet for Europeans, it was called, and there was a toilet for black people. So that is how, even buses, there was a bus for whites only and a bus for black people. So this is what actually, what can I say, Fueled.
Fueled this spirit in me and in many young people to go out there and fight for freedom, for the liberation of our country. And this is why then we were able to meet at university and say something must be done. We have to fight for change. And this is how we met with the Peter Mukabas, the leaders of the youth at that time. This is how we met with Mama Sisulu. And one thing that sticks to my memory is when Solomon Mahlangu, one of our freedom fighters, was hanged in Pretoria because they said he had killed a white man, which was not true. And Mama Sisulu organized a night vigil, a memorial service on the night before he was hanged. And she said, the mother of Solomon Mahlangu cannot be alone on this day. So we went to her house in Pretoria, a place called Mamelodi in the township, and we sat right through the night. We cried, we sang, we prayed, and I was amazed at his mother, Mrs. Mahlangu. She was so strong. She just stood up and sang her song, the song called Ngizolilwela Izwela. Ngizolilwela. I will fight for my country until it is free. We all stood up and sang with her. And from that song, we're all inspired and we became strong. And we said, we're finished with crying. We're going to continue where Solomon Mahlangu left off.
It's like a history class, but I'm hearing it right from the source. You're still watching Diplomatic License on City TV. My name is Apioko Ximgwana Abe, and I've been speaking to Her Excellency Lulu Ximgwana, who is the High Commissioner of South Africa to Ghana. We'll be right back. Welcome back. This is still Diplomatic License on City TV, and I'm still here with Her Excellency Lulu Ximgwana, High Commissioner of South Africa to Ghana, and we've been having a very, very vivid conversation. She's an amazing storyteller, and you know, a lot of the things that we've read and learned about the struggle of apartheid and everything in between, it's coming alive for me through you, and thank you for sharing.
Thank you.
Thank you for sharing. Now you resolved to take up this fight. And I know that when Nelson Mandela was freed, you were there. So let's talk a little bit about what happened, you know, and the steps that you took. Now you had been trained by Mama Sisulu, Mama Mandela, and others, yes, and there are other young women, young men as well, who fought for freedom in their own way. What was the process like?
Well, from there, when I finished university, as I said, I could not continue in this chosen portfolio of science or genetics. I worked and was exposed, and subsequently I then joined the ANC when they were unbanned, and Tata Mandela was
So this is
free.
after you were teaching?
Yes.
Okay.
In fact, I was invited by the ANC to leave my organization, come and work for them. So I came to work for the ANC at Luthuli House. Chief Luthuli is one of the great leaders of the ANC. He was a president before, when Mandela was in jail and before they went to exile. So the office of the ANC, or where they have their offices, is called Luthuli House. So this is where I worked. And after completing my university degree. And I continued to do the same work that I was doing for the disadvantaged communities. But this time I was asked to work for women by the ANC. And I was asked to work particularly with rural communities all over the country. We started projects for women, whether it was sewing projects, whether it was gardening, producing vegetables, or producing or building their own houses. We used to do fundraising to support the women's projects, and I was the head of that division, which was called the Women's Development Program. We even started a small agency called Malibongwe, which also was meant to go out into the rural areas, raise funds to support women's projects, train women in different skills so that they are able to survive and so on. So I continued with this work, working under Mama Sisulu in that office, working under Mama Mandela. That was their office, their organization. And there were others that, young girls that were doing different, others doing communication, others doing different aspects of the work. So when we won the elections in 1994, I was then asked to go to Parliament. And I never thought about Parliament.
How old were you at this point?
I was in my 30s. So I thought I was going to go overseas. Now the ANC is free, my country is free, I can have a passport, I will go overseas and do my master's.
Explore the world.
Doctorate. Exactly. I actually had a scholarship to go to Sussex University in the United Kingdom and do my master's there, and I was ready to go. And then there was this thing of Parliament now. And I asked one of my leaders, the elder women, and I said, what do I do now? And she said, you listen to the people. You will go to school anytime. But for now, the people are saying you go to Parliament, go to Parliament. So I went to Parliament, and again, when we were there, of course, we fought for recognition of women now. And again, they were there in Parliament with us, the two ladies and Adelaide Tambo and many of our stalwarts, now the heroines of our struggle in South Africa. And they were telling our leaders that you cannot run this country alone. We fought as women, we went to jail, we went to exile, we fought side by side with our men. We are going to run this country together. And this is when we started lobbying the leaders, because there's no point fighting alone in a corner as women. You've got to bring in the men, especially the leaders, and convince them. So we convinced them that women have an important role to play, and we need 30% women in Parliament. Otherwise, we will not be able to make an impact. If it's just Lulu, I will be swallowed in there. So they agreed to the 30%, and we said that is the minimum mass that will bring change in Parliament. And women went into Parliament under President Mandela, President Mbeki. From 30%, we reached 40%, over 40%. And then we started telling them, you remember we constitute 52% of the population of South Africa, so we deserve 50% at least. And the ANC agreed, and they came up with 50% quota for women in every level, in every organization. So in Parliament, we were close to 50%, but other parties, of course, were not committed to gender equality, women empowerment. So we ended at 44 and so on and so on. And we're still fighting for that to reach that 50%. We hope we will win more and more, because we tell women, vote for a party that supports women.
Absolutely.
Vote for a party that promotes women. And so the numbers are going up. I think now we're at 44% in Parliament. Now under President Ramaphosa, we have 50% women ministers.
Wow.
In South Africa.
Wow.
We have a woman speaker of Parliament. We have women in various, levels of our country, women judges and so on. So women ambassadors. So we are saying that we hope that very soon we are going to have a woman president.
It will come sooner than later, I'm sure.
We hope so.
But in all of this, I'm sure the ANC will not tolerate anyone, man or woman, who doesn't support women.
Yes.
Because that's what the party stands for.
Yes.
And like you've pointed out, a lot of the other parties are not really pushing women because that's not their philosophy.
Yes.
But looking at that situation, what has it been like rubbing shoulders with the men in Parliament and in governments? Because I'm sure there's some men who can be difficult.
Of course.
Yeah.
You know, when we first came to Parliament, we decided to form a women's caucus. And we said, when you speak there as a woman, you must make an impact.
Absolutely.
It's not just waffle. So we had our caucus. If we are going to speak on health, or we debate in the president's debate, you focus on health, I focus on education, we give each other, tips and important areas to cover. So when they were forming committees of Parliament, portfolio committee on education, on health and what, at the beginning we were not aware. You remember, it was the first time black people were in Parliament, so we didn't know what is involved. The men already knew. They took all the chairperson position. All of. Now the last ones were left. This is now we open ours. It's gone to men, all of it. And we said, no, we're going to put women now. So we lobbied and made sure women come in. So in 1994, I became the chairperson of the sports committee. And the men, some of them were heading soccer, some of them were heading rugby, some of them were heading athletics, and they say, Lulu, what does she know about sport? How can she come into this? And the women said, oh no, we're not kicking football here. We're interpreting ANC policies. We're building policies for this nation. And Lulu can do it, and she will do it. And we support her. And fortunately, the Minister of Sport then was Steve Tshwete. He said, we support women in the ANC. She's going to lead this. And you men are going to support her. So it's difficult, I must say, at the beginning. But as I say, with leaders like Nelson Mandela and many other leaders, they were able to bring in the younger men who maybe felt threatened and so on, and said, we are in this together, and we cannot build a nation if we leave the women behind. And from then onwards, I remember when I was in the sports committee, we introduced boxing for women.
Wow.
And we said, our constitution says equality for all, whether you are men or women. And women said, we want to do boxing. And we said, it's their constitutional right. Yes. And we passed the law, and it went. And we said, we need to protect women. So we had to do protective clothing and all that, so that they are not, endangered. And many other laws, like the Minister of Health at that time was Dr. Nkosazana Dlamini Zuma. She introduced free health care for women, pregnant women, and for children under 5. So those were the kind of contributions that maybe our male counterparts would not have thought about.
They would never have thought about it.
But we introduced those things even until now. Our women are doing boxing. Our children and women enjoy primary health care in our hospitals, in our clinics, all over the country. And there are many other laws. I remember the Deputy Minister of Justice at that time, who was a woman, also introduced the Domestic Violence Act. And we were one of the first countries on the continent to introduce the Domestic Violence Act to fight gender-based violence.
Right. Being in Parliament, I know at some point you headed the sports committee. Is that right? What was that experience like?
Well, yes, you know, sports,
being amongst men.
Yeah, sports is a men's thing. Everywhere they go, they want to watch soccer and rugby and cricket. So when we first came to Parliament, we were not informed. Many of us, we didn't know what is happening there. We've never had a Parliament before. So, but the men already knew, and all the positions and so on, and how it works. So they took all the positions, especially chairpersons of portfolio committees. So by the time we open our eyes, they are gone. And then there were just a few left. One of them was the sports committee. So we had formed this women's caucus, and in the women's caucus, we decided the last ones must go to women. So we lobbied the leaders and men that we knew would support the women. And then I was identified as the one who will chair the sports committee. So I said, but I'm not a sports person and so on. And they said, no, we're not playing football there. We are promoting the policies of the ANC and government. So we went into this meeting and I was elected the sports committee chair, and everybody was clapping and happy. And then there were a few men. Some of them were leaders of soccer. Some of them were leaders of rugby, athletics, and so on. And said, what are you doing here? What does Lulu know about sport? And one of the women, very strong women, she's now the Speaker of Parliament. She said, but we're not kicking football here. We're promoting policies, ANC policies, and Lulu understands the policies of this government. So the matter was closed. They tried to lobby the minister and so on. The Minister of Sport came and said, ANC policy is women empowerment, supporting women, gender equality. We support Lulu. She's going to work and support this, lead this committee, and we're going to work with her and support her as men in this matter. So then I remember we went to study what, it was new. We're new in 1994. So we went to study what they do in Australia, what they do in Germany, these big sports countries, New Zealand. And when we came back, they had their friends in New Zealand, in Germany, UK, and their friends would say, hey, these women who came here, they're very good. They're very good, they understand it. And then they started respecting us. So, as I say, that's how it was. But what is important is to have a strong women's movement and to ensure that you get gender-sensitive men who will support you, especially in the leadership of your organization, as long as you have that core that will support you as women. Things work better, and it's easier to convince the rest of the community.
Right. So from Parliament, I mean, obviously you were in Parliament for a very long time.
Yes, I was.
Yes. 20 years?
Yes.
Yes.
I was.
And during that time, you took up some ministerial portfolios.
Yes.
Yes. Can we go through those experiences too?
Yes. I went to Parliament to 1994. I was a member of Parliament for 20 years. Even when I was a minister, I was still an MP, responsible for my constituency. And we had, I was appointed first by President Thabo Mbeki as Deputy Minister for Minerals and Energy, and where I worked with Phumzile Mlambo Ngcuka, who was the minister. She's now the executive secretary for UN Women in New York. And of course, there we had different dynamics. We had a lot of support from ordinary South Africans and from our leaders, of course. But the challenge was on transforming the industry, which was mainly white dominated by big companies, by multinationals, and we had to change the laws to make sure that Africans can also come into the industry, can also participate in this industry. This is why we came up with a policy called BEE, Black Economic Empowerment, where we're saying big companies like Anglo Gold, Ashanti, like Goldfields, and many other companies, DBS, we need to make sure that you incorporate black people so that they can learn about this industry, so that we can transform the industry, which was then, at that time in particular, really white. No blacks could be involved in that. So yes, I remember one time in Parliament we had lawyers from the UK, from all over the world coming, representing these big companies. And they were telling us about Paul Kruger. Paul Kruger was a leader of apartheid, or even 100 years, 200 years ago, who started the gold mines, who owned this land. And we said, where was King Mushweshwe? Where was King where was King Hinsa? Where was King Chaka? We know that those were the people that owned this land. What happened to them? How did Paul Kruger get this land? So we started to ask these questions, and they couldn't answer us properly. And in the end, we got the act that we wanted. The new mining law was passed, and then it was time to implement and to change, transform the landscape, the mining landscape in South Africa, which process is still going on, because it's not an event. Transformation is not an event. It does not happen on one day. Even in America today, you still have racists. Of course. Even if they say they fought and all those many years ago, but we still have the racism alive all over the world. So it's something that you must continue to fight all the time. So that was mining and energy, minerals and energy. And then I went to agriculture and land affairs. And again there, we were trying to transfer the land back to black people. Oh, it was a big war.
It will be.
And you know,
because you're dealing with people, yes, Europeans who have built their status off of land, land ownership
and wealth.
So how do you now take that away?
It was a big war,
especially when you're now saying black people who are beneath them in their eyes should own it.
And they believe this is their land, the land of their fathers, and well, we said fine. Let us share the land. You are South Africans, you were born in South Africa, we're not going to chase you into the sea. Your great-great-grandfather came here, and therefore you don't know any other country, but let us share. We're all South Africans here. And again, we had to come up with laws for restoration of the land.
So, I mean, we've spent over an hour, can you imagine? Yes, we have. Yes, time is up, but we'll do an episode 2 so we can talk about your experience in Ghana. And I know what the Kwame Nkrumah Mausoleum means to you as a person who was at the forefront of the struggle for independence. And I know that the belief, and really that's what it is, that Kwame Nkrumah fought for, you know, the freedom of Africa. But Mandela fought for the development of Africa. And so we'll have some of these conversations, what the road to Ghana was like, what the experience has been like, if we've been good to you or not.
Yes, definitely.
Yes,
and Ghana is my home now.
Yes,
Even if I go home, back home again, I will come back here. You will never get tired of me.
No, we won't. We want you to stay. But before we wrap up, we need to take a walk around because we have our grandfather Mandela here. Mama Sisulu, Mama Mandela, they're here too. There's some art that really speaks. So yes, we'll take a quick break, and when we come back, we'll just take a walk around Her Excellency's residence and see the kind of rich culture and heritage that's here. We'll be right back.
Well, this is our traditional food meal. It's called ngusho. Ngusho. It's made of samp, which is maize, and beans. And we do a little bit of sauce with it, and I think maybe it's almost like your jollof.
Yeah.
We eat it like every day.
Okay.
And well, this is just chicken. And I thought we should have some pepper. I know Ghanaians, you love pepper.
You like our pepper.
Unfortunately, I didn't buy any nice pepper for you.
Oh, it's fine. All pepper is pepper to us.
Okay. You're welcome. So you can have a plate, ma'am.
Okay,
Dish up.
thank you.
It's just for the taste. Okay. I don't know, the gentleman, you can take a plate, go somewhere. Even that side, we still social distancing, yeah? Thank you.
Okay. And there's some chicken. A little bit of pepper. See that? Okay. Now we're going to go for a quick break. We need to sit down and enjoy this. So we'll be right back. This is Diplomatic License on City TV.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you for having me. What's the name of the dish again? What we just ate?
Ngusho.
I need to come
I'm
for the
glad you
recipe.
enjoyed
Yes.
it.
But, okay, so now I know it's kidney beans and maize. We'll soak it overnight.
Yes.
Boil for about 3 hours. And then put a pan of oil on the fire. Add some green pepper, onions. Spices, and then add the beans and the maize. Oh, too tasty.
Good student.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you so much for having us. I'm very, very grateful.
Yes.
It's been an emotional conversation.
Yeah.
That's
taking us way back.
Yes.
The difficult days, but they made us strong.
Oh, yes. And whenever women meet, we have interesting conversations.
Definitely.
Thank you so much. And hopefully when all this social distancing is over, we'll visit some more.
You will come for some more ngusho.
Yes, absolutely.
And nyamachoma.
And nyamachoma.
Chisanyama.
Yes, but we'll meet again to have our conversation about you and Ghana.
Yes.
Because you've been in Ghana for 5 years.
And I loved Ghana very much.
Yes. We'll do that. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Very grateful.
Thank you. We'll meet again.
Yes. So this has been another exciting episode of Diplomatic License on City TV. My name is Apioko Seremashong. I have been spending the day with Her Excellency Lulana, her High Commissioner of South Africa to Ghana, and it's been a brilliant conversation, full of history, full of heritage, full of everything that women stand for and can become. And I'm so grateful to have her here representing South Africa. It's been a wonderful time. And like I said, we'll bring you an episode 2 where we'll have a conversation with her about her experiences in Ghana, the road to diplomacy, and how that brought her here, and where it's likely to take her when she leaves Ghana. Sooner than later, I hear. Thank you very much, and stay tuned to City TV. And of course, you can catch us on DSTV channel 363, and all our episodes are online, CityTube on YouTube as well. My name is Apioko. Do take care.